Yo, what's up? So I'm gonna give this a little bit of a couple minutes to let some people join. If we got some people that want to tap in a little bit this morning, we're gonna kind of pick up the conversation that we started on Friday and try to go a little bit more deeper into the conversation, hopefully in a way that helps us begin to realize some opportunities in front of us and some potential next steps. And I'm just going to keep it real organic. I'm not trying to overproduce this or over experience this, but just want to kind of keep it solid and keep it 100. As I know a lot of us have been dealing with a lot of foolishness. My hope is that my internet signal here is going to be solid enough. And so if things start tripping with my internet signal, just bear with me or tell me or something like that. Want to invite people to, as I kind of, I'm going to share some reflections. My hope is that people can respond with some questions or comments. I mean, tell us how you feel. Drop a comment in the thread. Let us know how you feel, whether you feel like we on, whether you feel like we off with our analysis. But definitely are open to some questions that are coming up from folks. And my thought is I'm going to share a few thoughts, and then we want to respond to some questions that are coming up for people around kind of some things that we're sharing, and then hopefully we can figure out how we take some collective next steps together. So, last Friday, I jumped in my car. It was a little bit late at night and was just kind of having the conversation around what are we doing in this moment and what does it mean for us to have an analysis around what we're really facing in this moment, in this country, where we live, around the notions of race, around the notions that we have a white supremacist authoritarian in the White House. That's who we have with Donald Trump and 45, a white racist, supremacist, authoritarian, fascist, xenophobic leader in the White House who on last Friday was trying to find ways to use the black church and use black people who are a part of the black church to advance his racist initiatives and orientation. And unfortunately, some of our folks were going for some of that. So on Friday, we were making an analysis around that and trying to invite us to think about what does it mean for us to be aware in this moment of what's really going on and what's at play for all of us amidst this pandemic, and particularly for black people, what is at play and what is happening behind the scenes. And towards the end of the video, one of the things that I really started pushing on was the recognition that we have to hold that we are in the beginning, and many of us would argue we've been here for some time, stepping into a police state, a state where the police will begin to operate as shock troops of an authoritarian government, totally unhinged, unrestrained, unconstrained, and bringing a kind of violence to our communities and particularly to black people that we have seen in times past and that now we're going to see again. And that was Friday. We were having a conversation. And on Monday, we see this situation with our dear brother, George Floyd, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who has a racist white police officer. And I want to challenge any of us in this moment who when I say that the police officer is racist, your mind begins to ask questions as to why it is that we're calling him racist. And do we know him personally? And how do we know he wasn't racist? I want to challenge you to check who is controlling that story that is popping up in your head to begin to defend the oppressor instead of the oppressed, to begin to defend the victimizer instead of the victim. We need to start checking, why is this tape playing in my head to somehow have bad feelings for a white man with a gun who has the full authority of the state to take away your life and freedom, who decides to place his knee on the neck of brother George Floyd and to literally lynch him in broad daylight. On the camera, lynches this brother, takes away his life, even when the people in the community are telling him, you are killing this brother. None of that remotely moves him. It doesn't move this dude so much to the point that he literally puts his hand in his pocket. You know, when you put your hands in your pocket, so there's two things when you put your hands in your pocket. Oftentimes we might rest ourselves with our hands in our pocket, but psychologists also say that oftentimes when we begin to put our hands in hidden places in our bodies, it is sometimes because of a psychological thing that's happening for us around hiding because we know we're doing something wrong. This brother consciously and clearly knew what he was doing, but knew that he had the power to do it. And that is the problem that we have right now here in America. I love what James Baldwin, the powerful writer, said. He said, I don't care as much that the white man does not like me. What I care about is that the white man has the power to lynch me. And what we saw on Monday was the reality that white police officers, black police officers, period, but I want to focus on the whiteness of the police officer, has the power to lynch a black body in broad daylight while knowing he is being taped, while knowing he is being broadcast across the country, and he feels no fear, no threat of that at all, but feels fully empowered to lynch this black man and take away his life. I think we need to ask ourselves, what has happened in our country where white men who wear the uniform of the state feel fully empowered with all of some of the money some of us got and the jobs you got and the education you got. You got more degrees than a thermometer and you done made it. You got properties and real estate. And this white man in the state's uniform feels that he has the power to take away your life on broadcast TV without any kind of threat to his own person. We need to begin to ask ourselves what has broken inside this conversation and what has broken inside of us when white people in this country believe that they possess the power to lynch black bodies in broad daylight without any threat of retribution. And yes, I said threat of retribution, because this notion that somehow being a believer in God or being a Christian, for those of people that follow that way, somehow means that denotes that you have to get your behind kicked and lynched by white people whenever they feel like it, is another theological ridiculous notion. Following God has nothing to do with me getting myself whooped and lynched by racist white people in this country. And George Floyd is gone because white people in this country have the power under the state to kill black people. That's why he did it, because they have the power to do so. The reason that white woman in New York called the police on that brother in the lot with her little dog and all of that, because she knows, I want you to get this analysis. She knows deep within her body that even though she is not a law enforcement officer, because she is a white person in this racist country, that she possesses the power of the state's apparatus to criminalize, oppress, beat, and ultimately kill that black body. She gets that by nature of her whiteness. That's deep. That by nature of your whiteness, you get to kill black people, and you get to call not on your brother, not on your sister, not on your cousin. You get to call on the United States government to kill any black person whenever you get good and ready. And you telling me that we supposed to sit here and pray about this? Listen, I am not here to sit here and pray about this. And I want to say this to some of our, listen, prayer is good and it's got its place. But let me say something. Why is it that those of you all who wear glasses, right? I got some glasses that I wear sometimes because I'm getting a little bit older. Why is it that those of you all who wear glasses don't take your glasses off and pray when you walking down the stairs? How come it is that you don't take your glasses off and pray when you driving, when you know you require glasses in order to see? Why is it that you don't pray then? You know why? Because the notion of saying that you should pray when you actually are seeing that there is a material thing that you need to engage with is foolish. And if anybody told you to risk your life and pray that God would protect your eyes while you walk down the stairs, you would tell them you crazy. Why would you tell me to do something like that? I'm actually going to hurt myself, and I might hurt somebody else. I don't need to pray. I need to put on my glasses. The same thing I want to say to us. Why is it, and I want to say this to pastors that are listening, why is it that we tell our people to pray, in the face of violent white racism that is lynching our people. And if they lynched your son and if they lynched your daughter, I guarantee you wouldn't be talking about no praying. So why is it that we tell our people to pray when we are being lynched by a white racist government? And I dreamt last night in my dream. I dreamt I had a nightmare last night of bodies laying all over a hill where I grew up in San Francisco with the San Francisco Police Department and them harassing me in my dream. This thing is creeping into our very consciousness, and we telling each other to pray. Listen, you know what I'm going to pray for? And I want to call us to pray for? Let us pray that we finally find the spirit of resistance necessary to resist these white supremacist oppressors, to refuse their ability to destroy and lynch our black bodies, to refuse their sense of entitlement in this racist white country, to believe that they have the power to kill us. Let us pray that we stop enabling and allowing them to treat us like we are not divine. Let us pray that whatever story is going on in our mind that makes us feel like we need to defend these white racists, let's pray that we get rid of that. Let's pray that we stop telling stories to our community about why we don't need to be angry. Let us pray that we stop misusing the Bible as a tool to domesticize black people and turn us into sheep and then leave us for the slaughter of the wolves. If you want something to pray for, let's pray for that. Let's pray that we get the courage that when a black person is being beat up and destroyed by the police, we have the courage to push these cops over to get them off of our brothers and sisters. Let's pray for that courage. Because I'm here to tell you, the next time I see a police officer with his hands on somebody, I'm going to get involved. Period. And I wish anybody would tell me, I don't need to obey this United States government. This government is a sham. It is wicked. It has never done anything for black people. It is a lying country. Like Minister Farrakhan said, if somebody makes a promise to you and they don't keep it, what are they? They are a liar. Minister Farrakhan said, didn't they make promises to our Native Americans? Didn't they write it in treaties? Did they fulfill it? No. Black people, they told us they were going to give us 40 acres and a mule when they let us out of enslaving us. Did they fulfill it? No. So this country is a lying country that makes false promises and then tries to domesticize you into some false sense of patriotism and then uses your own theology that they taught us against us to give them the freedom to destroy us. Listen, what George Floyd is saying to me is it is time for us to no longer allow black bodies to be pinned under white knees and be lynched. You should be angry. I'm pissed off. I'm so pissed off, and you should be pissed off. And if anybody tells you to stop being pissed off and want to tell you to calm down, you should find some words to encourage them and ask them, why aren't you pissed off? Why is it that this don't bother you? Why is it that this don't turn you up? And then people want to start being upset because those young people rebelled in Minneapolis. I'm glad they rebelled. They should have rebelled. What do you expect people to do? And it's a shame that some of us are more concerned about a target than you are that the police target your people. You're more concerned about a company that is owned by some white billionaires who don't give a damn about you. You're more concerned about them than you are the fact that this United States government has targets on the bodies of black people. You should be ashamed. I don't care nothing about no Target, no AutoZone. Somebody gonna say, well, what about the jobs? But you got black people in Minneapolis losing jobs. You think that's the real analysis in this moment? You think the reason poor black people in Minneapolis don't have jobs is because some folks rebelled and burned that Target and AutoZone down? That's the reason black people don't have jobs in Minneapolis? No, the reason black people don't have jobs in Minneapolis is because of racist white people who deny the opportunity for black people to gain employment and get upset at them and at their system. And I don't want nobody else to tell me or any other black people to be peaceful. Tell the police to be peaceful. They're the ones out here killing people. Why are you telling us to be peaceful? Tell the police to be peaceful. Tell these white racist people who are vigilantes down in Brunswick, Georgia, that think that because they're white, they get to police anything that they see is happening. I wouldn't care if Brother Ahmad had broken into somebody's house and was walking down the street with a couch. It ain't none of your business to come running up on me with no guns. Who do you think you are? So this moment of George Floyd is bringing up for us, I hope, a real analysis about the racism that is plaguing our country. This ain't about no budgets that we need to do in our communities, and budgeting is a part of it. This is not about Democrat nor Republicans, because as far as I'm concerned, the Democrats and the Republicans, they all hate black people. These white Democrats ain't doing nothing for black folks. They can't even say black people. Everybody keeps saying people of color, people of color. Black. Do you need me to spell it? B-L-A-C-K. Black people. The people who were stolen from Africa. The people who were raped and forced to build this nation with stripes on our back, and then people will deny our ability to even be seen as black people. We are not people of color. We are black, and we were killed because we were black. So at least let us own it and hold the fact that we're going to protect each other because we black. And if you're not black, you should look at the 400-year case study of what has happened to black people and feel some deep sympathy in your heart and figure out, how do you come alongside these black people? People say, I got my own community to work from. You think you would learn something from what has happened to the story of black people over 400 years to think about what might happen to your community. George Floyd, I'm getting all worked up, but this thing has had me so pissed off. It is about racism. It's about anti-blackness. It's about shock troops. This is about us stepping into a police state. I want to say something for a minute about what a police state is, because sometimes I might just sound like hyperbole or just trying to be verbose, and that's not the point. We are entering a potential police state. What does that mean? That is when you have a totalitarian leader who begins to use the police force and begins to surveil using the police force as a way to control the people. You have Trump right now that got on, I believe it was today, and making an executive order around social media. If you go back a couple of years, you'll see when Trump spoke. Google when Trump spoke at the Fraternal Order of Police, their convention. You had all these majority white people in police uniforms, black police uniforms, standing behind him. And he laughed and joked, telling the police to start treating people more roughly, using all that dog whistle racial language to treat people more rough. And the white police officers applauded. You didn't see anybody pulling away. You didn't see no conscientious objectors. You saw them applauding. This blue line framework is a racist framework, and we, my friends, my sisters and brothers, are in the beginning of a police state. So all the other issues that you're working on, which are important, we must recognize that if we don't come after this police state, we are going to find ourselves living in a violent white supremacist situation where the police have now been fully activated to be able to use their violence against the people. Used against black people. The next in line is going to be against immigrants. Next in line is going to continue to be against other people. And you've seen it pop up in times past. So we must begin to think about, what does it mean for us to undo the police state? We're going to have to come after policing. And let me say this too, because I know sometimes we got folks who be like, well, I got a homie that's police, and I got a friend that's police, and I got family members that are police. And you shouldn't be talking about police like that, because you generalizing and you hurting my friend and my people. Let me tell you this. It is less than 100 police officers that are feloniously killed every year. And 70% of that, less than 100, are killed by white people. It is only about 20 to 30 police officers that are killed by black people and people of color in this country. And yet, even amidst that data, we have black people who are being killed by police and vigilantes. It's beyond 21 hours now. It might be somewhere between 18 to 20 hours where this is happening. So the people who need defending is not your loved one who is a police officer, who has a gun, who has a union, and who has the United States government behind him. God bless your cousin. God bless your friend. But they're not the ones who need defending. The people who need defending are the people who are at risk from this racist system. And I don't care. I've trained police officers. People that know me know that I've been around and doing a lot of that training police officer. Let me tell you this. Police officers, black, white, brown, whatever, if they are not willing to loudly stand up in their institution and critique the racism of it, then they have to accept the critique of being aligned with a racist system. You either critique it or you're going to accept the critique. But to tell us as people who are oppressed that somehow we need to chill out is ridiculous. So we're going to have to come after this police state. Again, if you got questions, drop them in, because in a minute I'm going to stop ranting and raving, and I want us to think about some of these questions, because we have an approach that we want to think about how we respond. We're in the beginning, potentially, of a police state and a potential race war. I'm not doing no chicken little, the sky is falling. I'm speaking honestly to us, and we need to be students of history. We're in a different moment with this global pandemic, with the country in 2040, 2050 will be majority minority, where whiteness is feeling for the first time in its 500-year reign of terror on this side of the planet, that they will no longer be in these powerful positions. They will no longer be able to control the government in the way in which they had, which is bringing out a violent reaction. We need to get ourselves organized around undoing the way that this policing apparatus is being targeted at our people. Stop focusing about Target being burnt up. They won't even give you good prices anyway. Be focused around the target that is placed on your sister, on your brother, not just George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. I got 3 daughters. You got this 26-year-old sister who is an essential worker. They doing all of this stuff, all the essential workers, all the nurses, the essential workers. You got this 26, 27-year-old sister who is a nurse and sleep in her bed, and the police break into her home with a no-knock warrant, and they in the wrong house, and they shoot this sister 8 times and kill her. Did you see that on the news? Are you hearing white people upset about that? What you gonna do when they break in your house and kill your baby? You gonna go pray? Or you gonna start calling out this racist system that is killing black women? This ain't no time to be, even the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything. There is a time to embrace. There is a time to refrain from embracing. There is a time for peace. And the Bible says there is a time for war. Now, you can't pick and choose. Everybody want to pick and choose. I don't want that part. No, there is a time for everything. And the time right now for us to be quiet and to dismiss this racist behavior, this is not the time. This is the time to protect our communities. Black people right now are 1/3 of the COVID deaths across the country. You know what that means? Crossing 100,000 people, we make up less than 15% of the population. And right now, 30,000 black people died to this pandemic because of failed systems, black grandmothers, black sons, black daughters, black preachers, dead. Then we come outside and we got to deal with the racist white police that's going to kill your consciousness, that's going to kill you mentally, and then lynch you on the sidewalk with no regard. And you watch me, and I want them to prove me wrong. These officers are not, without some tremendous pressure from all of us, they are not going to be, and not about them being charged. If that happens, they are not going to be convicted because the system is not set up to take care of black people and others. So we're going to have to come after this police state. And so one of the things that we're putting forward as a way for us to move forward and not just stay in being pissed off is let's dismantle the police state. Let us dismantle policing, and we're going to do that by doing what we call bring the heat. HEAT is an acronym, HEAT. HEAT stands for hiring, equipment, accountability, and training. Hiring, equipment, accountability, and training. We are going to have to attack these 4 pillars that make up American policing. Who is in our communities and why? Why are racist people allowed to carry guns in our communities and show up when there are disputes? Equipment. Why is it that we pay tax dollars and we are not influencing the kinds of tactics that bring us safety in our community? I don't want you showing up in my community with a gun. I don't want you showing up in my community with them tasers. I don't want you having a tactic that even allows you to put your knee on my neck. Can you imagine? Y'all done seen the videos I done seen. If a white dude, if a black officer had his knee on a white brother's neck. You got white brothers out here, I done seen the videos, who literally are pointing a gun at the cop. And the white officers run around and try to figure out how to help them. And if you black, we put a knee on your neck and we lynch you in public. We got to change the very fact that that is even an acceptable tactic. The A for accountability. There are 17,000 police departments in this country. Every one of them needs to have a oversight commission where the people have the power to fire the police chief. We got one in Oakland. It took us years to do it. And we finally just got this police chief out of here because she won't doing her job and she won't no good either. And it's going to be a part of undoing the police state. We need to have accountability for these people in our communities. And if you are fired from the police department because you're a racist and because you are doing your job in an illegal way, you should never be able to get a job in policing, period. Ever again. Ever again. When they find out that a pilot is purposely trying to hurt people through the airplane, they never let him fly a plane again. But for our communities, we got to deal with all these dirty cops and racist cops getting jobs in our community, popping through here with guns, racially profiling us, beating us up. I saw a video just this morning of a 90-year-old black grandmother who came out to try to stop them from oppressing her grandson, and they put their hands on this 90-year-old black woman and threw her over to the ground like she was a piece of trash. We should be ashamed, black men. I'm telling you, we should be ashamed if we keep letting these white people put their hands on our elders. I got a 90-year-old grandmother in Georgia. Man, we should be ashamed of ourselves if they even think that they can remotely put their hands on our grandmothers and think we're going to stand by holding the phone. This ain't right. This ain't right. And it is, like Sister Sada Shakur said, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. Not to pray, I'm not going to pray about you throwing my 90-year-old grandmother who already survived the horrors of your Jim Crow South. And then she got to be thrown over like a piece of trash because you feel like it and you don't have no fear that nothing gonna happen to you. That just don't cut it. That don't cut it for us no more. It don't cut it for us no more, y'all. We got to do something different. Accountability, and then the T is for training. Until we can abolish the police department, because I know we got folks that say abolish the police, and I'm with you. We need to abolish the police. But we can't abolish the police until we have a system to replace it. And that is going to take some time. So we need to work towards abolition. But in the meantime, we're going to have to train the existing people that we have coming in our communities. And we need to be the ones that say what kind of training needs to happen, what the qualifications need to be, and the ongoing training that allows you to be in my community. And if you are not properly trained, you don't get to be in here. One of the other things that I think we need to solidly do, why is it that beauticians have to pass a statewide exam every certain cycle? Beauticians have to do so in order to prove to the state that they're not going to burn your hair off with that perm. But police, what's the training and the assessment and the analysis that is happening to make sure that you still have the mental faculties to even be in our communities? So we need to bring the heat. H-E-A-T, bring the heat. So here's the thing. We know that we are, all of us, a part of a 400-year story and sojourn for freedom. We all are, okay? None of us started this. I'm only here because of that powerful African woman who saw me in her future and survived the horrors of that white racist South, and that's the reason that I'm here right now. So we are all joining a part of a movement, but it's important for us to keep up our moment and do what it is that we need to do, because continuing the work of the ancestors, right? So this is what we're recognizing, though, is that also all of us are entering this story in different places. For some of us, George Floyd might be the straw that broke the camel's back for you. You've been seeing black people being killed, but George Floyd is what did it. For some of y'all, Breonna Taylor may have been what did it. For me, it was Mike Brown in 2014 that did it, even though I was in Oakland when Oscar Grant got killed. But it didn't move me into action the way that it should have. So if you're waking up, one of the things that we need to do is we're going to need to start spending some time with each other and build our capacity to undo the police state so that we can replace it with something that is worthy of our being. And for folks who say, well, y'all ain't never going to do that, guess what? Can you imagine what would have happened if enslaved African people and the white abolitionists who supported them did not have a big enough imagination to believe and imagine a country without slavery? We would still be in chains. But they had that imagination. We also are going to have an imagination big enough to believe that we are not going to be victims of this racist policing system. So we're going to give us a few steps of what we need to do, because let's keep it real. We're not ready to do that right now. You're not ready. I'm not ready. More of us need to get our game up. Right? We need to get our game up around this police state and understand what it is and understand what it's not and figure out, okay, how do I get involved? Because all of us don't need to protest. As a matter of fact, if you black, not too many of us need to protest right now unless you are in really, really, really feeling it, because our communities right now are in a lot of danger of contracting and spreading the coronavirus and potentially dying to this. All right? So we need to get our game up. So one of the first things that we're going to be asking us to do is to go to bringtheheat.info. Bringtheheat.info. Go on and click on the Get Involved. Fill out your information, because we are going to begin to start getting some resources to folks that can help us begin to take the next step of undoing this police state. If you go to bringtheheat.info, within the next 30 days, 21 to 30 days, we are going to, and only has an email, so we're going to follow up with the email because we're going to need to get your address. So you're going to fill that out. We're going to get something to you within the next couple of weeks. We're going to get your address if you want, because we have something that we want to send to you that's going to be about us starting to get involved in some shared action across the country to undo this police state. But the first thing, go to bringtheheat.info and go to Get Involved and sign up with your information so that we can get the ball moving around what it is that we need to do in this work. All right. The second thing that we're asking us to do is next Thursday, starting June 4th, starting at 4 o'clock. So same time, we are going to be on here launching the Bring the Heat virtual town halls, where we're going to be bringing together some of the best minds and thinking around this policing dynamic. And we're going to be talking about how we undo it while we are living under this pandemic. Because it's not good enough for us to just be like, okay, we're going to do this. And it's not another just, we're going to do some little organizing. We got to stop these people. We got to stop them. Because what's the purpose of sitting here silently while they out here killing us? While they out here killing us? Right? So we're going to start holding these virtual town halls. We need you to get 10 people to bring to it. So let's bring people to it so we can start mobilizing and organizing where we are so that we can do the third thing that I'm saying. When you go to bringtheheat.info, you'll see on that first page, we've got a couple demands that we are going to be looking to bring to all of these mayors across our country. The main one being fire racist cops and give us a plan for how you are going to find out who the racist cops are in your city and what is the process by which we're going to fire them. But we're going to call on all of them. And if you get some BS from your mayor, which I am fully expecting we are, We're going to get BS, especially from some of these Democrat liberal mayors. I work here in Oakland. I live in Oakland. I work all over, but I live here in Oakland. And we got our mayor. And they love to talk to you like you a little kindergarten. Going, oh, you know, little Ben, let me tell you about what it is we're doing. Man, I ain't got no more time to listen to that. What you going to do about these racist police officers that you have out here terrorizing my community? And if you're not out here ready to do nothing, then we're going to be ready to do something. So we're going to demand that they fire racist cops. But one of the other things that we're going to be doing when we get on those town halls is we're going to start talking strategies that we need to be thinking about. Certainly there's the organizing strategy. That's a tool. There's the protest strategy, direct action. That's a tool. The other thing that we are going to start talking about is the plan and the thinking behind arming our communities. Yes, arming our communities with weapons. What does it mean for us to start arming black people, black congregations, instead of just arming yourselves with prayer, arming yourself with self-defense weapons and training ourselves in our congregations, in our community centers on how to defend our family members and our people. And we got some of us who have used weapons in the past and are trained with how to use weapons. And we frowned at times at those who have sought to learn how to use weapons. Tactics and strategies are only as good as their ability to be in service to outcomes and goals. I'm going to say that again. Tactics and strategies are only as good as their ability to be in service to outcomes and goals. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about on those virtual town halls is we're going to be introducing some consciousness about some of this word. Google Deacons of Defense. I want you to Google that. Deacons of Defense. Because when people think about black people protecting themselves, being armed with weapons, the first image that comes up is the power of the Black Panthers. And I live in the city where the Black Panthers launched from. And we're thankful for their great example and their leadership. But that is not where the arming of black people originated. Black men in the church, deacons in the South, when they were not taking up the offering and visiting the sick, they were patrolling their neighborhoods with rifles. They were patrolling and provided protection, particularly for CORE at the Congress of Racial Equality at that time. We had all the young people participating in the movements in the South, and they were protecting them from the KKK and the white supremacists. Church dudes who got armed to protect the people in their community. So there is a legacy. This is why I want us to, we're going to have to start digesting this. There is a legacy of black believing people who prayed and carried. Hashtag pray and carry. Somebody need to put that out. Hashtag pray and carry. We need to have people in our communities who are willing to protect the vulnerable. Because I can't trust no police officer to protect me or my 3 daughters or my wife. We need to have people in our communities who will protect each other. And so we're going to have some conversations about that. And if you tripped out about the riot, it's not a riot. It is a rebellion. It is an uprising. Stop using the oppressor's language and calling black people who resist white supremacy and use as a tactical action the burning down of an establishment owned by white people as somehow act of violence. It is a rebellion. It is uprising. You know what the violence is? The violence is what that white officer did to George Floyd. The violence is what those officers did to Breonna Taylor. The violence is what they did to Brother Ahmaud Arbery, those white vigilantes. The violence is what they did to Stephen Taylor at the Walmart by my house. That's the violence. Not nothing about no Target or no AutoZone. So check yourself, and we're going to have this virtual town hall for us to start asking ourselves, why do we talk with the dialect of the oppressor? Why do we think like the oppressor when you are the oppressed? Why are you thinking like him? Why does it come in your mind to protect him? The policing institution is not here to keep you safe. It never was. The original, and I'm going to stop because I'm on this rant, but I want to get a couple questions lifted up. But you need to do your history. The original function of the police department was to do 3 things. And I've trained hundreds of police departments and said this over and over. The first function of the police department was to chase down runaway slaves. The second was to organize terror so that the enslaved Africans would not run away. So it was about how do you do things to keep black people terrorized, to keep them scared, to keep them tripping. The third one was to use aggressive force constantly to gain compliance. That's what all that whipping was about. And what do the police do now? They chase down black folks. They organize terror in our communities. And they use excessive force to gain compliance. And you're going to look me in the face and tell me that this thing ain't the same thing. It is the same thing. So let's get ready to start doing our work. Next Thursday, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern, we are going to have our first official virtual town hall. Bring the heat. Undoing the police state in America around hiring, equipment, accountability, and training. This is the moment now. It's done. We done did reports. We done did protests. We got to undo this thing. And I'm not confident that all of us going to make it out of this, because what history tells us is that when you start coming after white supremacy, it claps back. But I'd rather die on my feet than live my life on my knees. And you know what I'd rather do it worse? I'd rather die on my feet than to die underneath the knee of a racist white police officer who does not see my humanity. So it's time for us to do our work. Next Thursday, we're going to be at the virtual town hall. Go to bringtheheat.info, click get involved, and leave your information so that we can take the next step together. Get 10 people that you're going to bring to this town hall next week. We're going to have collateral coming all through the week. So I'm going to keep these Facebook pages going, and we're going to have collateral coming through the week. Let's get people involved. There's a lot of people out there that gets organized. Everybody doesn't have to do the same thing, but everybody got to do something. So maybe you don't protest. Maybe you're not down with buying a weapon. You don't have to do that. You might be a lawyer. We need you to help us advocate. You might be a business person. We might need you to help us fundraise and help us think through some other strategies around this. You an organizer? We need you to organize. You a preacher? We need you to talk. You an artist? We need you to create and inspire. Everybody got a role in this. Everybody ain't got to do the same thing. Everybody got to do something, because we all in this. And if you not black, you in this too, because they first have came from the indigenous people. Then they engineered a 400-year story of oppression around black people. And if you are not black, you are next. And if you are white, this is your moment to put a stake down in your life and say, I refuse to silently be a part of a white supremacist regime. Don't be the good Germans during the Holocaust. Because being a liberal, don't do it. Voting for the Democrat ain't it. We need to see that y'all are as willing to be uncomfortable and suffer as we are suffering and uncomfortable. And that's what it means for us all to belong. Bring the heat with us. Not because you're the target, but because we are. Because black people are. Black people, we got to stop. And this is our moment. Bringtheheat.info. Next Thursday, virtual town hall. Google Deacons of Defense. Start doing some of your homework. But I want you to think about who are the 10 people that you can take. I'm going to post this after. And I'm not saying that they're going to watch the whole thing, because I've been going for 45 minutes. I only plan to go for 20. Who are the 10 people that you can send this video to? Be like, yo, get on this game. Get on this game. I need you to come to this virtual town hall. You might not be able to stay for the whole thing. Get on for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Get 10 people to go to bringtheheat.info. And let's get some people moving in motion. It's our duty to fight for our freedom, y'all. All right? So we going to push. But we got to have a wide strategy. Nonviolent action and organizing. We're going to also start getting people in our communities to get armed so we can protect. We're not talking about trying to go out and hurt nobody. We're talking about protecting ourselves. And so I'm thankful for a lot of the black gun clubs that are out there. We're going to be reaching out to you because we need y'all help. Y'all can help us get our game up. Let's do this all together. We all we got. We all we got. And last thing I'm going to say this country is on its way to hell. It's on its way to hell. This ain't God's country. And so if that bothered you with me saying this country is on its way to hell, I want to encourage you to come to the town hall so you can start asking yourself, why is it that it bothers me when Brother Ben says that this country is going to hell and that this country is a wicked empire? We got to figure out, why is the oppressor in your head? I don't need to believe in a devil who has a red suit on with two horns and a tail and a pitchfork. I see the devil every day. I see the devil on that George Floyd video. If that's not the devil, then I don't know what the devil is. If living black underneath this white racist system is not hell, then I don't know what no hell is. You want to tell me to be scared of hell? Be scared of some fire that's going to get me later? When I'm dealing with the fire of these white racist people right now? Man, you come on, man. Nah. We done got too old for that. It's time for our faith to grow up. It's time for our religion to grow up. It's time for our blackness to grow up. It's time for this country to grow up. Black people are not here to wash away white people's sins. And I'm tired of being angry. But I'm not going, and I'm going to tell you too, you hold on to this anger because it's righteous. It's righteous. And white people and white racist folk, they don't want black people to be angry because our anger scares you. Well, I'm angry. And if you scared, then you got to do your work to figure out why you scared. Because the only reason you should be scared is because this anger is targeted towards white racism. So you got to do your work. And I'm not here to do it for you either. I'm not here. I love all white folks. White folks that's out here, stop calling black people and crying and talking about how it's just hurting your feelings. Because we don't got no time for that either. You got to go find some other white people to cry with. Don't call us crying. I got my own tears. I'm crying with the people in my family. Don't put your pressure on me. You got to deal with that. All right. So we got some moves to make. I'm gonna look real quick because I had one just to see if there's some questions that were popping up, and then I'm gonna let us go because I know we almost had about an hour, and none of us can stay too long looking at these little screens and all this kind of stuff. But I'm seeing, man, I just opened up the account and I'm seeing already folks are going to bringtheheat.info. Thank y'all. Bringtheheat.info. Let's not just get on these Facebook things and these town halls and have a cathartic release that's not going to lead to no organizing and change. I don't got no more time for no cathartic release. I wanted to go out in Oakland last night and turn up. I was like, man, we should just go and turn up and just turn this thing out real quick. And I said, you know what? Sometimes that is working in the benefit of these white oppressors because we go turn up, we have a cathartic release, and then we go back home and chill. Take your anger knob and instead of blowing it out on 10, turn it down to a good 4 or 5. And let that anger brew. Let it brew so it can cook something. Cook some change. Some questions coming up. Is this all right to share? Absolutely. My boy Keon Johnson in Sacramento. You know I'm riding with you 100% all the time when we shut it down for Stephon Clark in Sacramento. Let's share this and get this out. I'm going to make it public after. Our action steps. Kashana, yes, go to bringtheheat.info. We're going to get on that, right? What can we do locally right now? You can call your mayor and your police chief in the next 24 hours and ask them, what is your policy for firing racist cops? That's what you can do right now. What would happen if all of us tomorrow call your police chief, call the city? Isaiah, I know you in Stockton, not trying to put you on blast. Call them tomorrow. Call Chief Johnson and say, what's your strategy, Chief, to fire racist cops? We know we got a homie in the mayor, Mike. Call Mike. say, man, come on, what's your strategy to fire these racist cops? Yes, we need to take up arms. And y'all heard me already say, yes, we need to be doing that. It's strategic. It's not about us trying to be violent. And we got to disrupt that narrative that somehow when black people pick up arms, it's because we're being violent. We're picking up arms because the state is violent against black people. We're picking up arms because white supremacists are being violent towards black people. And they're being violent to other people. In San Leandro, not too far from where I live, there was a white woman walking around putting posters on Asian American relatives' homes telling them they had 30 days to vacate where they live or consequences were going to happen. That is white supremacist behavior. Why is that white woman allowed to come back and live in that community where our Asian relatives are? That is bizarre. Can you imagine if I went into a white neighborhood and left posters on all the white people's thing and said, if y'all don't get out of this neighborhood in 30 days, there's going to be consequences. And you think they're going to let my black behind come back in there and live in the community? Of course not. But they let the white lady do it, right? These questions we need to ask ourselves, right? Were you not crazy? And San Leandro churches, because I know I got some Bay Area people on here, what are you doing about it? And I'm down to help you do something about it. This ain't about no shame, but prayer ain't it. Saints, it's not, right? We need to get another entity. I'm with you, TJ. And that's what I'm saying. In this search towards abolition, we need to build a new system. It's going to take some time. I was talking to one of our dear brothers who I deeply respect, got deep love for, who we've been doing movement work, and this brother been putting in work for 25 years. And one of the things that we've been talking about is in order for us to fully abolish the police, we have to get a system in place that can protect us, right? That's going to take some time. So we need to think about stages and start having some conversations about stages. For example, if somebody gets kidnapped in our communities right now, you need a system where county agencies and systems can talk to other county systems to track people who might be kidnapped for our community. We can't call Leroy. Or if a black woman is living in a domestically violent situation, she should not have to call Leroy down the block to come deal with JoJo when she's in danger, right? So we got to figure out how to have a real deep conversation about abolition, and we're going to be having that on the virtual town halls as well. This notion around racist, there's a question around how are we going to know which cop is racist? There are actual tests and a lot of scholarship that has been put in to testing racist behaviors, norms, and dynamics. That brilliant social scientist, Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt at Stanford. Man, what's the sister at Yale? I'm looking at her. Dr. Tracy Mears, right? There, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. There are some brilliant social scientists and psychologists who have been doing work around this, that we can begin to have some tests for biases and then track how are the implicit biases that police officers have any relationship to the kinds of behavior and treatment that they're distributing for the community. And if your biases are showing up as behavior, the definition of racism by the critical race theory in the early 70s is not just racial prejudice, but it is the power to enforce that racial prejudice. So if you have racial prejudice anchored by your implicit bias that is showing up with behavior because you have the power to do so, that by default makes it racist and should give us the power to take your job. Y'all get that? You can follow it back. But we got brilliant people who've been doing work. I got a chance to work with Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt when we were training police officers. This sister is brilliant. Matter of fact, let me plug her book real quick. If you haven't read the book Biased by Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt, go to your bookstore, go to Amazon, and buy that Biased book, Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt. It is written particularly around the intersection of race and policing. Let's get our game up. We're going to have to do more than just go off. We got to read, folks. We got to read. We got to get an analysis. We got to understand this thing, all right? We got a couple more. Some of y'all just left some comments, which is dope. Love that. Somebody was asking me, why am I trashing Democrats and not the Republicans? If you was listening to me the whole time, I was talking about the Republicans. I said the Democrats and Republicans ain't no good. I talk about the Democrats because the Democrats are the ones that say that they rocking for our causes. So listen, I'm about Operation Save Black People and Save People of Color. That's what I'm about. So Democrats need to get their stuff together. Because stop talking about the game. Get your game up, Democrats. I've been organizing for 10 years. We go into these meetings with these so-called liberals, and I can't even get them to say racist. I can't even get them to say the word poor. They want to give me all these excuses as to why they can't do what's right. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it, man. You better do what's right. The Republicans, that's not even a conversation. The Republican Party is nothing but a racist mafioso system. Man, that Republican Party is a racist system. And if there's anybody on here and you think the Republican Party is not a racist system because you think they care about life and you've allowed yourself to get organized around the abortion issue, we should have that conversation. Because you should really ask yourself, why is it that they want to fight for a life to be born and try to take control of a woman's body, and then once that life is born, they don't give a damn about what happens to that life. You can kill that black life, you can rape that black life, you can incarcerate that black life, but they want to do everything to get that black life here so they can rape it, incarcerate it, shoot it, beat it, and accuse it, and call the police on it. You're not pro-life. They believe in capital punishment. You ain't pro-life. So again, that's the voice of the oppressor. They used to take the enslaved Africans up for church in the morning on Sunday and give them nice clothes, really because they wanted to show off their slaves to each other. And then they would only let the preacher preach messages about slaves obey your master. We need to cast the demon of white supremacy out of the system, but we also need to cast the demon of white supremacy and the voice of the white man out of our own mind. I do not wake up to take care of white male power. Period. And I don't apologize for it. And if that bothers you, then you're going to have to go get your game up. I'm sorry, because black people being killed in the street. And if I ain't got no tears for how me talking about black people getting killed is making any white men feel some kind of way. You got to get your game up. Go read a book. Go read White Like Me. Go get the book. There's anti-racist books. You got to get your game up. All right. Listen, folks. That's pretty much all the questions that came up in the comments. It's been about an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing go. I want to appreciate y'all for tapping in. We've stayed strong with a couple hundred folks this whole time. I deeply appreciate y'all taking some time and letting your brother tap in with you. I am just like you. I am a hurting person. I am a hurting black man right now in the middle of this story. We need each other to get free from this white supremacist system. It is going to take much more than prayer. It is going to take much more than Facebook advocacy. It is going to take all of us getting involved. And let us not be the ones that wait for it to come to your door, for them to shoot your child. Your child, you done put them in the college, they doing everything right, and then they shoot your child because they don't believe they human. They shoot your cousin. They throw your grandmother over. It's our duty to fight for our freedom. Let us stop looking to a lying government and a racist white system for goodness it has never demonstrated. Let us look to one another for that goodness. Let's come together. I want to see you next Thursday at the virtual town hall. I'm going to pull in my brother, Mike McBride. We're going to pull in a couple other folks. We got some brilliant people who've been doing work. Every week, we're going to get our game up. Every week, you're going to learn something, and every week, you're going to have a chance to do something. The first thing we need you to do today, go to bringtheheat.info. We ain't going to sell your data. We ain't going, you're not going to go to bringtheheat.info. Go get involved. Get your information so that we can send you the links for the Zooms and the virtual town halls and everything that's happening. Let's save ourselves. If you Christian, let's do it. If you Muslim, let's rock. If you Jewish, let's do it. If you follow the African indigenous spiritual religions, let's go. If you Buddhist, let's rock. If you don't got no faith and you're a humanist, let's get down. We are all created and all made in, my language is in the image of the divine. So you divine, and I want to respond to the divinity in you. Let's do this work with and for each other. I love y'all. Bring the heat.info. I'm going to save this and make it shareable so that we can get this out. Peace and love. Let's live free. Let's keep rocking until we make the world where everybody can belong. Peace.